The other day, the good folks at MMO Champion started a thread about the problem of mythic raids being locked at 20 players. And the usual solutions were discussed, including flexing the raid sizes, lowering the raid sizes, making all difficulties have a static number, and the most mentioned solution: shutting the hell up because you don't got a clue what you're talking about. So after ignoring this for long enough, I've decided to throw a few thoughts in. Hey, it's Soul, bringing to you the World of Warcraft. Today we're once again playing the role of armchair designer, and we're going to get into what some players call the problem with mythic raid sizes. We'll try to identify the underlying problem and at least brush on a solution that tries to make sense. So to find a solution, we need to first accurately identify the problem. We're starting with the concern of mythic raid size restriction, which implies the perspective is coming from a group who's struggling or who just can't meet the mythic raid requirement. Let's use this oversimplified statement. I want to do mythic things, but my group is too small. Blizzard, make the raid size smaller. That's kind of the common argument, but it doesn't easily present a problem to solve. Here's the thing. Let's take my guild as an example. We don't or we can't do mythic raids because of our raid size, which I'll say is usually at 15. I can argue that mythic raid sizes should be brought down to 15 so it meets our needs. It sounds sort of reasonable, right? But what about the guild next door who typically runs a 13-man group? Then they'd argue that mythic raid sizes should be brought down to 13 so it meets their needs. It's easy to see how this can cascade into an argument between different perspectives who want a size that suits them, and to heck with everyone else. So even if somehow Blizzard went ahead and said, hey, okay, 20-man mythics are a problem, let's bring it down, it would serve one group's needs while totally ignoring everyone else's. So how about flexing mythic raiding to, say, 15 to 20 players? Historically, we've seen some creative roster decisions from players thanks to the flexible raid system, which I gotta say is a very awesome piece of technology, but one that doesn't mesh well with mythic raiding. It's because mythic raiding is what I'll consider as hardcore gameplay for the sake of argument, and we've seen that hardcore players will do everything it takes to get ahead, including manipulating raid sizes to their maximum benefit. And there are other arguments too, including but not limited to encounter balance. When it comes down to it though, we run into the same challenge, only this time with player-driven toxicity instead of only Blizzard-driven toxicity. Smart players will eventually find out that, for example, 17 players is the absolute ideal raid size, even if you can bring in 15 or 20 players into a mythic raid. Other players will follow suit and be compelled to bring no more and no less than 17 players at the risk of being overwhelmed by mechanics. Suddenly, 17 is the unofficial raid size among the elite. Naturally, players at the lower band will follow what the best players do. Then we run into hypothetical situations of players being benched because there are too few or too many available players, and that wouldn't feel very good. Notice that after all that gum flapping, I still haven't identified the problem. I just jumped to a few proposed solutions, so let's get past all of that and let's get to the actual problem. Whether it's 10, 15, 20, or 40-man raids, there's always going to be a constant challenge to meet a requirement. Today's WoW isn't anything like yesterday's when it comes to the logistics of group building. While there were fewer realms before as there are now, those realms were more than likely filled with enough players to support a number of high-end raid teams. It was probably a small number, but I can't support that statement with facts. But we can safely come to the conclusion that 12 years of WoW's operations split players across hundreds of servers. Also, there's been a slow decline in total population and a gradual migration of players from smaller realms to larger, more populated ones. So, argue all you want, LFR was not the catalyst that killed top-end raiding. Blizzard has thankfully taken steps to support our splintered community through the technology behind virtual realms, cross-realm raiding, real ID, and battle tags. What we have today are opportunities to group up with players anywhere in our respective region to participate in mythic raiding, at least when cross-realm mythic grouping is available for a given raid. But, and here's the problem I'm finally proposing, just because we have the technology to group up together doesn't mean we have the adequate tools to find each other first. The problem isn't that the raid size isn't acceptable, but that some groups can't meet the raid size. There's a difference. Going further, players come to that conclusion because they feel they've exhausted all of their options to possibly reach that goal of having a mythic roster. In-game, there are tools that allow players to look up a staggering list of guilds based on a few search filters, and if allowed, they can possibly join together for mythic raiding. And I'm focusing on team building with guilds over pubs due to the likelihood teams clearing mythic content are part of the same guild. Many higher-end guilds use other communication tools to facilitate recruitment, including a guild website, forum, Twitter, Discord channel, and a spattering of other social websites dedicated to helping players find groups. And I find this arrangement woefully unacceptable. It's my strong opinion that, for all that I can understand regarding Blizzard's attempts to smooth out the grouping process, for all the fancy technology that was developed, Their greatest failing in the World of Warcraft is that they've made it exceptionally difficult for normal people to grow their team to eventually field Mythic content. The foundation for a strong tool is there in the Guild Finder tool. At the moment, it sucks. So let's design something better. Here's the goal. Create a new tool that fulfills its current role at a much stronger capacity, as in allows players to search, identify, apply, and join a guild. At the same time, we're going to empower guilds who are struggling to meet group requirements, whether it's low to high-end raiding, or PvP, or any group activity. We'll add new features to the tool's functionality and allow guilds of any level to search, identify, and recruit potentially interested players. Let's brush on this and try to understand from a development standpoint. To meet this goal, we're going to need stuff, including but not limited to the following. A significant expansion of the storage used to hold information on the current Guild Finder tool. A way for the tool to directly sync with portions of the World of Warcraft Armory and the Battle.net client. Tooltips and tutorials to assist players using the new tool, obviously a client-side patch, and probably a host of other things that are beyond my expertise as a designer, to which by the way I have none. So this is not a small endeavor or something that could be so easily whipped up like a selfie camera. This will take resources, time, and testing, and a request like this could easily blow up into a huge project. So let's get specific and we'll roast the current tool in the meantime. The Guild Finder tool, which was deployed back in the days of Cataclysm, uses a number of filters to narrow down a list of pretty much every guild in the realm and connected realms that bother to list themselves. These filters are so broad that a player who uses them can't expect to find only a handful of quality guilds to choose from. You can bet that there are a crap ton of guilds that raid on weekdays and could use some extra damage dealers. The tool itself only stores a very small amount of information per player and per guild. So let's make more filters, just not so many that it's too difficult to find a guild that meets our needs, and I'll use myself as an example. Hey, it's Sol, and I'm a paladin tank who only cares about raiding, and I prefer to run only on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 10 PM Pacific Standard Time. I happen to be decently geared, and I've killed heroic hell yeah. Hell yeah. Get it? Okay. First things first, I'm already in a guild, and currently that disables usage of the tool, so let's throw that restriction out. I should be able to find a guild even while I'm in one already. It doesn't make sense that I have to search for a guild from a guildless alt or be forced to leave my current guild first. I would like some discretion, please. Preferring weekdays or weekends is a really weak filter. For raiding, we ought to have the schedule specified days and a reasonable range of the raid time. So let's go with morning, afternoon, evening, and late evening. These alone should help filter out a lot of results. Let's add in another parameter, a relaxed versus a strict schedule. Let's do a primary language too. That should hopefully give us much better results once we want to browse guilds that meet our needs. So what should we see? Here's what we currently see. The name, the guild achievement score, the number of characters in the guild, and a short description. We need more. How about pulling up specific pieces of the achievement UI like rated battleground achievements, raids, or keystone dungeons cleared? Another approach would be to right-click on that search result and be able to pull up that guild's armory page seamlessly. And in case we have a lot of results, let's have the ability to sort the list or add a filter based on the number of characters in the guild. That should help filter out a lot of the dead guilds that are still listed. And from there we apply and hope. Oh, and one more thing I'd like to add, an option to list ourselves as interested in joining a guild, just like guilds can do that now. What about from the guild's point of view though? Here's what we see. Pretty much the same filters, with the one difference being that I can prevent non-max level players from applying to the guild or so much as see it on their list. For the purpose of this video, trying to make a screenshot of me recruiting myself was much harder than it should have been. Guilds recruit in a vacuum with this tool. There's no way for us to reach out apart from channel spamming, and that's a grossly inefficient way to get people excited to be in your guild. In fact, it's mostly annoying. So let's empower these guilds and give ourselves the ability to find players, or free agents as I'll call them. It starts with free agents who decide to flag themselves as interested in joining a guild. It's that thing that I mentioned before. With this, guilds can now do their own search based on the added filters we envisioned, and we get to see a list of characters much like characters can see a list of guilds. Setting up the Guild Finder tool is also a role only for the guild leader, and I think that's a feature that can and should be shared where needed. Let's put that in. So what should guilds see? We can already see their name, class, level, role, and whatever description that they left. I can pull them up on the armory, but it'd be nice if there was more curated information, like let's say if they were interested in PvP or raiding, what are some relevant achievements they've earned. Item level would be nice too. From there it sort of depends on the guild's preferred approach. For the original intent of this video, the guild might not want to straight up invite someone without maybe going through a trial, having a chat, or looking at raid parses. But the only option is to whisper or invite, which requires both players to be online, and communication otherwise only goes one way. So instead of whispering, both parties should be able to send the BattleNet alert through the tool to show their interest. Helping make the initiation of conversation as seamless as possible is essential at this early stage, and shouldn't be explained away with, hey, reminding players about mailboxes. What if the guild does want to straight up invite someone though? Again, we can't guild invite someone while they're offline, so something new will have to be developed, an offline guild invite through the in-game mail or the BattleNet client. The free agent opens the mail and presses the accept guild invite button, and that's that. This is not a perfect system, nor is it the one solution to solve our problem. The point is that players needed more built-in assistance when it comes to making groups. Blizzard has gone to great lengths to support immediate group building through the group finder tools and the recent quick joining features. But what about support for more dedicated groups like Mythic raid teams and guilds? There hasn't been a lot. Don't misunderstand the message though, it is hardly up to Blizzard to resolve all of the challenges of building and maintaining dedicated teams. That's on us to tackle the human problems of attrition and drama. But I'm reminding Blizzard that they can play a nurturing hand in helping us get started, or stand behind a 5-year-old tool that was already outdated from its deployment. I want to do Mythic things, but my group is too small. Blizzard, please give me the tools I need to solve our problem. Share your thoughts, and stay breezy.